You're watching City Channel 4, your window to our community.
We want to welcome, first of all, the team captains and the volunteers. And today we're here to learn more about NAMI and the NAMI Walk program. And the theme for this year's walk is tackling mental illness. We'd like to introduce Dan Sabers, his coach over at City High School. You remember when I was quarterback there a number of years ago. And I think we went to state and we won, I can't remember a lot of things, but not really. He's been the coach in Iowa his whole life, graduated from the University of Iowa, began teaching and coaching at City High in 1981. He has taught health with some physical education mixed in. Excuse me, and became the head football coach in 2001. Also coached 7th grade boys at Southeast, which I think he did my sons many years ago. So I guess I will turn it over to Dan. Thank you.
Well, I'd certainly like to start off and thank Sarah and Mary for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to represent City High School, first of all, which is what we're all about there, and feel very fortunate to be a part of that. And then, of course, extending beyond to the football program as well. So this is certainly an opportunity that we welcomed and think we can play a role and help out. And one thing I learned a long time ago is to, if you got to do situations like this, try to make yourself look as good as possible. So that's why I brought along these guys here, just to, steal some of the spotlight away from me and so forth. So Jared Taylor's down at the end. He quarterback for us last year and plays basketball and other sports as well. Naeem Smith is next, defensive back, basketball player, but wide receiver for us as well. And then Nate Whelan, who had some tough injuries this year, still recovering, and really showing us all how you deal with adversity and bounce back from it and that type of thing. So appreciate you guys coming, and I just want to let you know that we're excited to be a part of this. We think it's something that is very important. As Michael alluded to, I'm a health teacher at City High, and so we have to talk about health issues, and mental illness comes up quite often. One of the things that I stress to my students is, hey, I need their help every day to make the class as interesting and informative as possible. And one of the things we do is I ask them quite often, what do they know, and so on. And you ought to see when I ask them, and this purely voluntary, if they want to raise their hand if they know someone dealing with depression. And generally about 75% of my students' hands will go up. When I ask them about if they know someone who's been suicidal, 30 to 40% of their hands will go up. When I ask them if they've known someone with an eating disorder, we're looking at 15 to 20% of their hands will go up. And then, of course, there's all the other issues as well. So when I was asked to do this, it didn't take me long to realize that, hey, this is something that's the right thing for me to do as a teacher and a coach, and I certainly hope that I'll be able to do some good things and bring some things to it, because it's definitely, the need is there. I know City High has a good relationship with NAMI. I know counselors have used them. I think certainly, within classes we're using them, and then obviously they serve as a resource for all of us with different activities and so on. I think one of the key things that helps is that they really try to get rid of that stigma that mental illness is something that should be kind of hid under the table. And I've seen progress as an educator. It used to be where if somebody was dealing with depression, well, don't want anybody to know, got to keep this truly confidential, like it was something really bad, and people shouldn't be aware. But we made a lot of progress there. That's something that gets discussed a lot more out in the open. I'll get more kids in my classes that will just say, hey, I'm dealing with depression. Well, that certainly makes the class, better and so on. So I think those are some very, very valuable things, and I just want to let everybody know that I'm going to do what I can from my position here to get the football program involved, but also extend out to West High as well. Maybe we can get a little challenge going or something like that and stuff as well. But I appreciate everybody and what you're doing, and we appreciate it at the schools. This is the kind of support we get from NAMI. So thank you very much, and have you guys have a good day.
You know, I think what you said is so important because it really needs to start at that age, because it takes away a lot of the fear and questions, and that group really helps it grow. So next we'd like to introduce Mary Isa, and Mary is the Executive Director for NAMI of Johnson County. She's been the director for the last 2 years, but she's been with NAMI for 10 years. So I will turn it over to Mary. Thank you.
So, thank you, Coach, and the football players for coming. They're going to hustle back to City High. So we thank them for coming. So welcome to our 12th walk. Can you believe it? 12 years. So I welcome all of you today. And I'd just like to take the opportunity to say how grateful I am to be the executive director of NAMI and have contact with all of you quite often. So I enjoy that. As you finish eating, I'm going to show a video. And it's a video from a gal, oh gosh, and I forgot the information, from North Fayette School. And I think it really hits home with having the coaches be honorary chairs. So I will show that next. It's a video they made at their school.
What was it that got broken inside of you? That sent you off searching down empty avenues. Room's cold and smoky that you stumbled through, looking for a little truth somehow. I hope you found it now. I hope you found it now. And what was it inside you? The love never satisfied. The thin thread that held you, how did it come untied? The grace you only ran from, the bridges that you burned, the peace of mind you learned to live without. I hope you found it now. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I hope you found it now. Yeah, yeah. Ooh. The burdens that you carry and all of your mistakes, you were looking for a place to lay them down. I hope you found it now. hope you found it now. And what was it inside you? The love never satisfied. The thin thread that held you, how did it come untied? The grace you only ran from, the bridges that you burned, the peace of mind you learned to live without. I hope you found it now. Yeah. Yeah. I hope you found it now. Yeah. Ooh. The burdens that you carry and all of your mistakes, you were looking for a place to lay them down. And I hope you found it now. Yeah. I hope you found it now. Yeah, yeah. I hope you found it now. Yeah. Oh, I hope you found it now. I hope you found it now.
I'm going to introduce Phil Steffensmeyer. Phil started with NAMI by volunteering at NAMI UI, and he has taken the peer-to-peer class and is in our own voice speaker. He's in his third year of being the board president and is now serving as president. So.
Hi there. Thank you very much. I do not mean to correct Michael, but it's my third year of being on the board, not the board president. Just my first year at that one. No problem. I wanted to first thank the coaches for helping us to tackle mental health this year, and I want to thank everyone in this room for doing your part. It's great. I think it's worth starting off by reading to you NAMI's mission statement. NAMI recognizes that the key concepts of recovery, resilience, and support are essential to improving the wellness and quality of life of all persons affected by mental illness. Mental illness should not be an obstacle to a full and meaningful life to persons who live with them. NAMI will advocate at all levels to ensure that persons affected by mental illness receive the education and support they need and deserve in a timely fashion. The way NAMI is trying to achieve that is through education, advocacy, and support. We educate just about anyone who will listen. We advocate for everyone who has a mental illness, and we try to offer support to those with mental illnesses, their families, and loved ones. Everyone's support structure is as important as their struggle themselves. The classes that NAMI uses to help promote these causes are the peer-to-peer class, which I've taken myself, and it's peers talking to other peers about how to best deal with your illnesses, how to employ the best coping skills to help you live the best life that you can. Family to Family class teaches family members how to best support their loved ones and how to take care of themselves. Self-care is very important. NAMI Basics is for parents of children with mental illnesses who need to know how to best support their loved ones. NAMI has Connections, which is a peer support group. There's a family support group. There's a monthly family breakfast. And we have Our Place, which is a peer drop-in center, and it's open from 1 to 5, Monday through Friday, and is an excellent place for community and a lot of people coming together for a common cause. We also do in our own voice speeches and the monthly educational series. This is my 6th annual walk, and there have been 12 of them, so I haven't been around for as many times as some of you have. But I love the walk. It's a time which never did that many amount of people come together for one cause that I believe in so very, very strongly. And it's an important one, and I thank you for doing it. So never underestimate your ability to make a change in someone else's life. First and foremost, I would like to thank Nancy Hale, the Executive Director of NAMI Iowa, for all of the support that she gives us and helps to make everything that we do possible. And if the current NAMI JC board members would please stand up so they could be recognized, I'd appreciate it. We have Todd Ingram. We have Sarah Fletcher. We have Greg Hall. We have Jesse Henry, Diane Lucina, Stacy Mead, Sarah Nash, Rita Offit, Roysanne Porter, Susan Spaziani, Carol Tippy, and LaDonna Wickland. Thank you all very much. I also must mention that the person who is unable to attend today is Anna Nelson, but she's with us in spirit, I promise. Past board members are playing a vital role in keeping NAMI moving forward, volunteering, and spending countless hours doing what they can to help out as well. Some of the past board members here are Dan Hugg, Margalie Warner, Jean Spaziani, Frank Schmidt, Orville Townsend, and June Judge. If you'd all please and be recognized. Thank you. If I have missed anyone, please stand up. I apologize. That's the only list that I've got. Okay. And I would also like to thank the NAMI Lynn County representatives who are with us here today. We have Ruth Hart, we have Shelley Kramer, and Brad Neff. If you please stand. Thank you very much. And we also have Steve Miller, who will be speaking later today. Thank you all.
We're going to welcome Leslie Carpenter. Leslie joined NAMI in 2015 while taking the family to family class along with her husband Scott. Their 25-year-old son has a schizoaffective disorder that evolved over the past 9 to 10 years. While she has 30 years of experience in healthcare as a physical therapist, she has found the process of getting mental health care to be significantly challenging, and she hopes to help that change for other families. She believes supporting NAMI is one important step in doing that. So with that, let's have Leslie come forward. Thank you. There you are. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary, if you can do the first slide. So our story started out much like everybody else's that has young children. We started out, we were ready, we had kids, I'll let you do the first hit. And we had our young son, Patrick. And he was a great baby, he really was. He slept through the night, At a 6-month checkup, the doctor looked at me and said, "My goodness, why didn't you bring him in for these ear infections?" And I said, "I don't know. I didn't know he had an ear infection. This is my child." He was happy. He was easy. Okay? And so we went on and we had a daughter. And life was pretty good for quite some time. They had the normal childhood, normal activities. Patrick played baseball. He was a wonderful, wonderful baseball pitcher. Really did great. And then, to borrow a little bit of a literary term, and then we went into the teenage years and we thought, oh my goodness, is this what our parents told us about teenage rebellion? Is this what we're up against? Sadly, that wasn't it. It really wasn't it. Patrick was ill. He was very ill. And quite honestly, we didn't know what it was. We didn't know what was wrong. So we started seeking help. Started processing and thinking, okay, our son's really, really ill. He's mentally ill. And we started thinking, okay, we can solve this. We've solved every other problem we've been up against. Let's do this. And we're the typical type A parents. If anybody's in here that's dealt with me in terms of trying to get some services or care for our son, you would probably think of me as the most high-maintenance mother, pain-in-the-butt mother there is. And I can promise you I have been, because sometimes that's what you have to do, sadly, to get the care. So we went through the usual bout. Hospitalizations. Found out he'd used pot. That was his self-medication. We got him drug treatment 4 times. He relapsed. He'd get better. And then in about January 2011, he called me one night at midnight. "Mom, I just died. You're going to have to come pick me up because I've been reborn. And I need you and Dad to drive me to go see Obama and Oprah tomorrow." So, yeah, got up, got him hospitalized. And that was his first manic psychosis. So the first diagnosis there was bipolar 1. Okay. Met with a wonderful psychiatrist, got a lot of good education, got him on meds, and he did pretty well for about 18 months. Mostly staying on the meds, working, living fairly independently. It was all good. Then, in the fall of 2013, he began hearing the voices. Things had changed. We got him admitted. He was on the meds. They were in his blood. But it had changed. It had now evolved to being a little schizophrenia and a little bipolar, a wonderful mixture. Many of you know. So we continue on, and various meds are tried. Lots of meds are tried. During this whole time, it goes on for about another 18 months, still not really getting a whole lot better. And throughout all this time, people are telling us over and over again, as you all know, you really need to go to NAMI. And quite honestly, my husband and I thought, okay, when are we going to do that? You know, the typical family, you're working full time, then you go to the hospital, then you might get a pass and spend another 3 or 4 hours with your loved one, and then you go home and you pass out. And you get up and you go to work the next day and you take care of your patients and you go back to the hospital and you think, seriously, what are we going to do there? You know, we're researching, we're reading, we're listening. But finally, it got to the point where, yeah, we decided let's do this. I decided and I dragged my husband along, truth be told, like mostly probably happens. So we go. And you know what? It was really helpful. We went to the Family to Family series, and it was helpful, I would say in our case, maybe not so much for the didactic education. That was good, and certainly there were some pieces in terms of learning how to de-escalate that was very helpful, and I still work on that because it doesn't always work for me. I'm not a very good poker face, so when somebody's delusional, I put my husband up. He's got the poker face. He deals with the delusions better. But what really, really helped with the Family to Family was just being in a room amongst other people that knew what was going on. They understood. They cared. That was really helpful. Okay? So then the last class, the very last class, I think, was on advocacy. And that's where we watched this DVD, a story about what had happened with Ronald Reagan and the deinstitutionalization of mental health care. And boy, I took that and really took it to heart and thought, my God, that's exactly what's wrong. We don't have enough beds. We don't have enough psychiatrists. We don't have enough services. Even when there are services, there's waiting lists. When you finally get the services, then the loved one refuses it. And then you go back on the waiting list. It's really complex. It's really, really difficult. So then, you can go ahead. I decided, okay, let's start advocating. Where do we start? And I started here in this room last year. And I thought, okay, we'll do a NAMI walk team. This will feel good. We'll be around a lot of other people that we can relate to. But I thought, oh my goodness, I don't know anything about fundraising. And thank goodness, last year you had a wonderful talk on fundraising. And I took that to heart and decided to listen to some of the information that that gentleman had shared. And then I also really listened to Leanne, who talked about own your story. Own it. It's your problem. It's okay to be public with this. So we went ahead and went public. I'll let you go to the next slide. We went with the Share Your Story, and we did it. We got lucky. At my work, they were very supportive, and they allowed me to put that story in our newsletter. And our newsletter at our work goes out to about 100 employees, and it goes out every week. That becomes important. So we shared our story. Thank you. And every week, as the donations started rolling in for the fundraising, I went ahead and did thank yous. I thanked them in the newsletter, I thanked them on Facebook, I sent them a personal thank you note, mostly typed. For anybody that really knows me, typing is essential. And I would send handwritten notes to the people that I didn't have an email contact for. And those started every single Friday. More thank you notes would go out, more people would donate. It really helped us to be more successful. So if any of you have the opportunity to do that through your church, through your work, that really does work very well. And people are so nice once they understand what's going on in your life. So much nicer than I thought they were going to be. Then we had the day of the walk, and you all know how it was. My whole team didn't show up, but several did. Even some extra people came. And then I decided to start going rogue. One day, I went to the farmer's market with my husband, and I met this wonderful young man. His name is Carlo Maccarecci. Most of you probably don't know him, but Carlo is an organizer for the Hillary Clinton campaign. And I'm sorry to share one candidate, but that's who I was going for. And he asked me if I would sign a Commit to Caucus card. And as I was sitting down and filling out that card, it asked also on the card, would you be willing to volunteer on the campaign? And I sat there thinking, wow, we're in the first in the nation state. These candidates are going to be coming to town. They're going to come to town a lot. Gee, Carlo, if I volunteer on this campaign, will you get me in the room with Hillary Clinton? Let me talk to her about mental health care. And it was his first day on the job. He said, I don't know. And I said, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll start volunteering for you, and maybe down the road you can be checking with your bosses and try to get me in the room with her. Well, we got to Hillary Clinton. We got to her twice, 3 times, 4 times, and we got to her. You can go ahead with the next slide. We started out at the Jefferson-Jackson dinner last fall. I knew I wasn't really going to get in the room alone with her, so I worked the rope line, and because I'm not a very good speaker, I went ahead and typed up a message. I gave her a little bit of the story like NAMI recommends, and then I gave her 2 very specific advocacy issues that I really strongly believe in. And I made it only 2 because I wanted to hit on it several times over the course of the campaign. And I did hit on it. I gave it to Bill. I gave it to Chelsea. I even went so far as to write in Bill's note that I thought that for his first husband issue, you know how they always have an issue, I thought he should take on mental health care. He could then reverse some of the negative effects of Ronald Reagan. Who knows? I doubt it'll happen, but I thought, why not try? And then this came. I got a letter, and she'd obviously read my message. It was very personalized, very specific. And in it, she mostly addresses stigma and that we need to treat mental health issues like all health issues. And that's great. I do believe in stigma. We've got to do things about stigma. My things really weren't about stigma. My things were to improve the health care for mentally ill people. My things were like, okay, admission criteria, it needs to change and not just be for immediate danger to oneself or others. We've got to be able to keep these people in the hospital a lot longer if we want these meds to take effect. And we have to get insurance to cover them. That was one of them. The second issue was we need new, modern, state-of-the-art facilities with multidisciplinary teams that have multiple levels of care within the facility so that as the person gets better, they can be downgraded in the amount of support that they're getting and gradually eased out back into the community. Because right now, that doesn't happen. They get discharged and they are on their own. Okay? Moving forward, my husband helped. He's much more the speaker. He went with me. We asked many of the different candidates questions about mental health care every chance we got. And we just kept persisting. Because, you know, if you don't ask, you don't get it. May as well try. And we had that rare opportunity to get them in the room. So we kept working on it. Now, before the next slide goes up, so I don't start crying, in the last message to Hillary, I suggested and shared with her some information. The picture that's about to go up on the screen in a minute is a picture that my son drew about a week into his last major hospitalization. He was still in psychosis. He was extremely suicidal, and largely, he was suffering from huge side effects of clozaril. Really bad. He couldn't eat. He could barely swallow. We were buying Boost and taking it to the hospital to keep him from losing weight. He had seizures, he had tremors, and we had to spend about 3 weeks proving that these were side effects, even though there were research articles that we found that had been written by some of the faculty at U of I on the side effects of clozaril. While he was suffering like that, barely able to function, he had met another young woman who was also suffering from listening to the horrible things these voices say to them all the time. And he had drawn this picture. So I shared that with Hillary and said, you know, if he can produce this, there is hope. That was in the middle of horrible suffering. And yet his message is, I don't know if you can see it, there's hope, love, kindness, compassion, serenity, peace. These are the things he's hoping for this other little girl. If he can be wanting to give that kind of care to somebody, then we as a country need to be trying to give that kind of care to everybody. So I urge you all to go out there and keep advocating as well. Fundraise, support NAMI, and thank you very much.
You are an amazing speaker. Yeah. But, you know, that piece of artwork, or your son, you know, what would be really cool is if you could reproduce that and actually maybe even use that as a fundraiser for NAMI, because it's really wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Next, we'll let Steve Miller come up and share his story. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Where'd Leslie go? Hey, good job, really. Some of these stories are just incredible, and yours was one of them, so thank you for that. I played high school football, too, up in Cedar Rapids, Washington, a few years ago. I was actually not too bad. I got contacted by Iowa to play down here, but I was getting sick. And I played baseball that following summer, and I couldn't concentrate at the plate, and cognitive and feeling nervous, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to continue my career. But at that age, that those guys are, is when the time that a lot of people it's hitting. You know that, June. And it's just, there's 1 in 4, 1 in 5 people affected in the country. So obviously these things are common, and we have to address them with more effort than we are right now. I wrote Hillary Clinton a letter when she was in the First Lady, and she wrote me back. And a couple years ago, I wrote a letter to Obama because I heard he does 10 reads 10 letters a day, and he wrote me back in a very detailed one-page letter. So I have it framed and in my room, so I kind of like that. So anyways, I got through high school. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story and then what I know about NAMI. And that's what Mary asked me to do, so we have to make Mary happy. So I went to college down in Missouri, a smaller school, and I was getting sick, so I was using, self-medicating, and I got through the year, and a lot of sleep, a lot of hard times. But I came home, back up to Cedar Rapids, where my folks are, where I grew up, and I was getting bad. And as time went on, I started having auditory hallucinations, delusions. I was nervous. I was losing my thinking. It was mental illness. If you have it, you know what I'm talking about. But if you don't, it's just an incredible thing the human condition has to go through. And it was just so hard and so difficult. I became catatonic for about a month, so I didn't even turn an eyeball when somebody walked by. And some classic stuff like thinking bugs were crawling on me or food was being poisoned or just so much crap, So anyways, after that summer, my brother and I have a cry out on the stoop, and we decided to go down to the emergency room, and I was down there for about maybe 30 minutes with the doctor that was working, and he says, just follow this nurse, and I was so vulnerable at the time, I had no backbone. I didn't say a thing, I just followed. And they took me up and opened up the door and walked me through with my brother, and the locked door locked behind me, and I knew I was in a different portion of my life. So I was in there a couple of weeks. My parents were always good to me. They were backing me up as long as I needed them, and still do today. My parents are 83, 84, and they're doing real good. So I'm very, very fortunate there. So I was in the hospital 2 weeks, came out, and that was the start of the next portion of my life. So that was before the atypical. So I was on Haldol for high doses of Haldol for 10 years. Horrible, just a horrible thing to have to go through. That came, but then when clozapine came out in '89, it worked. I couldn't believe it. I had forgotten what it felt like to have a relatively normal way of thinking again. It had been so long. So I had 10 years on high doses of Haldol. I started clozaril. I still had negative symptoms and some mania and some depression. So I added Zyprexa in '96, '97. And that's when I found NAMI. I was in my psychiatrist's office, and there's a poster that's people with mental illnesses and enrich our lives, and lists like 20 famous people. And at the bottom of the poster, there's a phone number to call to order it. So I did that, and it was NAMI, and they sent me the poster. And they also included a list of all the affiliates in the state of Iowa and the contact numbers. So I called the guy in Cedar Rapids. His name was Gus Johnson. You know him, Shelley. And he says, yeah, come on down. We got a meeting tonight down at the lower level of the bank. And I went down, and I got hooked right away. It was the first time I ever was in a place where people were openly talking about mental health, and I really understood what it was like. So that was my NAMI connection right there. So I was on the local NAMI board, and Margaret, the former ED before Nancy, asked me to come on the state. And then I went to a NAMI national convention, and they have an election for Consumer Council. It was each state has a representative and alternate for the Consumer Council. So I was on the national, so then I got elected to the executive committee of the Consumer Council, which is a group of 5 people that lead the issues for the country, for consumers. So I did that for 2 years, and then I ran for the NAMI National Board, and I got that, and I did that for 3 years. So I was getting pretty well hooked into what was going on as far as NAMI was concerned. And being on the board, yeah, you had a chance to see the best and the brightest that come in to talk to you. So it was a really, really interesting experience. After that I did that 3 years up until '04, and then we had the 3-year rollout for the consumer, or for the Connections support group training. Do you know about that, Phil? You know about Connections. I should say something quick about Phil. I think he doesn't mind if I say anything. He was getting up this morning, and he wrenched his back, so he had to take something to try to get rid of his back, and he's wondering if it made him a little what word should I use? Loopy. So maybe that's why he had to go sit down and come back up here to do that. So for 3 years, I did the Connection Support Group trainings all around the country. I did like 1 or 2 a month, so I hit almost every state, which was a great experience, and did a lot of good work. And it was really good. So next NAMI stuff, I trained Inner Voice, I trained peer-to-peer, I did family-to-family, I did provider education, basics. I think that's about it. And so I got to know NAMI pretty good, and it's just such a great organization. You know, these people, you guys are people that care, that get it. You know, so many people don't understand what mental health really is, and I think we all yearn for more understanding and education, and to be accepted, and to be dealt with the way we would want to be dealt with, and how we would deal anybody else. So I feel very fortunate to find NAMI. The first walk was in 2002, maybe 2003. I was on the national board at that time, and a gal named Jolene from Texas started it, and it just spread like wildfire across the country. And it gives people, I mean, they have the resources to do some things you'd want to do that before you couldn't do. So it's very valuable stuff. And we have the 3 walks in the state now, right, Nancy? Scott County, Johnson, and Des Moines. Yeah. So I mean, that's some of my stuff. You know, right now I wrote a book. I've been working on it for a few years, and I just finished the mental health section. But I did the whole thing, and I had my editor go through the mental health section, and it's about 25, 30 pages long, that section, and so it'll be about a 150-page book. I'm kind of excited about it. This week up in at Theater Cedar Rapids in Cedar Rapids, there's a play called Next to Normal that's on right now. Anybody seen this yet? Have you heard about it? You saw it? Excellent. I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to go Saturday. But it's about a suburban family. It's kind of rock music, right? So there's music, and then there's a suburban family that one of the siblings has bipolar disorder. So anyways, you know, like I had the hard times for so long, but man, when you come out of it, you feel so good about things. I'd forgotten what it was going to be like to feel good and put a life back together, because I was just so sick for so long, and to come out of it. So I give you hope. This can happen to you if it can happen to me.
I guess the main thing would be to say thank you to everybody here. I want to thank you because I learned a lot about NAMI today, and I especially the personal stories I think are so important and really educate. So so I guess the goal is what, 100,000? Because Alan told me he was going to do 50, so you should be. Close, maybe, whatever. You know, it's funny because I'll end with this, but it's funny because Jesse Henry, I student taught in fifth grade? What? Yeah, 5th. And Phil lived up the street from us, and he's was this big, so I feel very old, but it was it was very much an honor to help you today, so thank you very much. Bye.
You're watching City Channel 4. On TV, online, on demand, on Facebook, and now on the go on your mobile device.